Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Acuity Knowledge Partners webinar entitled Make Every Dollar Count, Transform Your Consultant Database Process for Exceptional Outreach and Deal Conversion. My name is Pedro Armstrong, and I head the buy-side and commercial banking business development teams at Acuity Knowledge Partners in the Americas, and I will be moderating our webinar this morning. We have a large attorney tenure with heads of marketing, heads of consultant databases, heads of client services, and directors of consultant relations, representing global asset management organizations from the US, Canada, the UK, Germany, and the wider European market. Thank you very much for joining us today. From a quick housekeeping perspective, we kindly ask all attendees to stay on mute during this session to avoid any disturbance. The duration of our webinar today will be 1 hour, and we will conclude with a Q&A session. To ask questions, please submit in the Q&A box anytime during the course of the presentation. If we are unable to answer your questions, we will have a response back to you by the end of this week. Finally, we have 2 polling questions, which we will be asking all attendees to please answer during the course of the discussion, as we will be weaving that into our presentation today. So over the next 1 hour, we will be discussing all things consultant databases, whether it's data accuracy, quality control, upload timeliness, content freshness, etc. And I have the pleasure of being joined with by 3 industry experts in their own right. We have 2 clients, Dawn and Beth, and we have our very own Acuity expert, Vimal Tripathi. I will soon ask these individuals to introduce themselves. However, let's set the scene. Why are we having this webinar today? Well, for one, we know that investment consultants are highly influential in the institutional market. A recent survey of institutional asset managers indicates that consultant intermediated business accounted for close to 60% of total asset flows. We also know that more than 1,000 institutional investors globally rely on consultant databases for manager research and due diligence. So it is absolutely imperative that asset managers focus efficiently on managing the consultant database process to not only improve outreach, but also deal conversion while dealing with challenges such as data inconsistencies, tight deadlines, and low product visibility, etc. With this as our backdrop, I'd like to kindly introduce our panel today. Joining me, we have Dawn Perry, Senior Vice President, Global Head of RFP and Consultant Databases at Pinebridge Investments. We also have Beth Mosley, Senior Manager, Head of Global Product Information at Principal Global Investors. And we have our very own Vimal Tripathi, Director within our Fund Marketing Services business unit. Perhaps we can kick off with each of you introducing yourselves and your respective roles. Beth, perhaps we can get started with you.
Yeah, thank you, Pedro. And thank you for having me be part of this important discussion today. Hi, everyone. My name is Beth Mosley. I've been in the financial industry for about 18 years now. 15 of those years have been with Principal Global Investors. I managed institutional client relationships for about 7 years, both in our US headquarters and out of our London office. And I've been on the RFP team for about 8 years now, writing for a few years and now managing the department. My role within the team is to manage business partner relationships, drive quality and efficiency within my team, and find synergies across the firm. I have 26 people across my teams, supporting 13 investment boutiques, a global distribution staff, and all vehicle types that we offer. Within my team, we complete 600 RFPs per year, 2,200 DDQs, have about 4,800 pieces of content, and manage almost 1,000 consultant database profiles.
Thank you, Beth. Welcome. Dawn?
Good morning, Pedro. Thank you. I have grown up in the asset management industry for the past 20 years and been with Pinebridge Investments for just under 6 years. My team consists of 8 internal Pinebridge writers, as well as a data analyst. In addition, we have a Pinebridge Acuity DDQ team that consists of 4 writers and 1 manager. We are also global. We have offices and reports from London, Singapore, and New York, as well as India. My team completes just over about 700 requests a year, as well as ad hoc projects internally and managing the content database. Over the years, I've seen the RFP team grow into more of an integral part in the sales organization and then bringing in revenues for the firm. And I've also seen the evolution of how consultants have played a bigger role in that. And my focus on my team is to create efficiencies and better processes for everyone to do the best writing and of their jobs possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you. Vimal?
Thanks for having me, Pedro. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Vimal Tripathi. I'm director at Acuity Knowledge Partners, supporting our fund marketing business. I look after consultant database and RFP DDQ practice. During over 8 years of association with Acuity, I had opportunities to work with multiple clients, helping them set up efficient processes. I've also been part of 35 plus consultant database projects transition to Acuity. I'm responsible to ensure seamless transition, implement best practices for higher process efficiencies and superior client services. Excited to be part of today's thought leadership group. Look forward to hear from Beth, Dawn, Pedro.
Thank you very much, Vimal. So let's get started. Beth and Dawn, over the past 6 months, COVID-19 has dramatically impacted and changed the way that we live and that we work. And within the asset and wealth management industry, it's also no longer business as usual. What is your assessment of the impact of COVID-19 on the overall global asset management landscape, and specifically within consultant database functions? And how do you think that is going to change the way of working in the future? Beth, perhaps you can get started.
Yeah, thanks, Pedro. I think we could spend this entire hour on the impacts that COVID has had across the globe, but I'll focus on a few that I feel are biggest within our industry. First of all, market volatility. Clearly, this has had a huge impact on asset flows. Our clients need to make liability payments. Individuals are facing decreases or loss in salary, meaning less flows into retirement plans. And the overall fear of this pandemic is cash. Not only is there an impact on manager flows and revenues, but the impact on our clients and their constituents are far-reaching. The second one that we see a bit closer to home is a halt in manager changes or research on new managers. Initially, there was panic and an adjustment to working remotely, but clients and consultants still want in-person meetings before investing, particularly with a new manager. They're starting to see the need for more virtual instances like this, but it's going to take a bit to get there fully. I believe these more formal and documented due diligence efforts will not go away. Meetings will take a long time to get back to normal levels, and even when they do, it will be the norm to ask more questions in DDQs and consultant databases like we're seeing. As far as the specific impact to consultant database function, it hasn't been as great as the bigger world, if you will, but we're certainly seeing more pressure. It was initially painful to manage data from home. I'm sure you guys can attest to that. But the lack of consultant meetings and on-sites have driven more due diligence in the form of adding and requiring more content or details within a consultant database. With this, there's also more pressure to get the data on time and be as thorough as answering these questions as possible.
Thank you, Beth. Dawn, what is your view?
Yeah, thanks, Beth. I think I agree. I think we have yet to see the full effects of COVID across all industries. I think Beth highlighted in terms of the asset management industry, the impact on the asset flows and the volatility, it's a very challenging time. In terms of the effects in the databases, it definitely has increased the importance of the data and the analytics that come from the databases. As Beth mentioned, with consultants and clients not able to have these very much dependent internal in-person meetings, it puts more pressure on the data and the content in these databases and the documentation that comes across our team's desks. So it's really important that we have, our databases in getting updated in a timely fashion for month-end and quarter-end deadlines. Additionally, we have seen an increase and changes to the landscape of databases and the questions being asked, such as ESG and D&I questions. And I suspect we're just going to see more maybe on the BCP front, given that pretty much every organization's business continuity plan has been activated during COVID. And I think the dependency on databases is definitely going to continue, and even more consolidation in the consultant relations industry within consultants, which leads me to, to mention the relationship aspect with our consultants, right? It is more important than ever to maintain that relationship and to coddle that. It's easy to be in front of your clients and consultants when you're adding value to the portfolio and the market's great. It's challenging to have the tough conversations during this time, but it is also going to be telling in the aftermath and how that consultant and client relationship develops. So I would say, the key is to have trust and transparency with your consultants and be in front of them during these challenging times.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. So, quite an interesting perspective on, your respective views as far as, the consultant landscape is concerned, as far as the impact of COVID is concerned. I took some quick notes, and you've both alluded to that, the fact you need more data, you need more complete data, you need a timely update of that data. And so, Dawn, you also specifically mentioned that, consultant databases have become more important over the last couple of years, not necessarily over the last couple of months. However, I would say over the next 6 months and beyond, we do know it's going to become increasingly more important. And so given that we recognize that it's quite an essential function, yet difficult to manage, let's talk a bit about the challenges that exist in managing this very essential part of a global asset management organization. So with that, we will now have our first polling questions for all those who've joined us this morning. This is a multiple response selection, so please, respond to as many that you feel it's impacting your organization. And the question is, what are the key challenges you face in managing your investment consultant database process? We will have this for 60 seconds up, so please, at this time, if you can respond, that would be great. However, Dawn, while folks are responding to that, perhaps can turn to you. What are some of the common challenges that you believe asset managers face in managing the consultant database maintenance process?
Yeah, thanks, Pedro. I'm looking at the responses there, and there's really a ton of challenges, and we know that anyone who's managed database teams. But I guess really two top my list, and that's managing the data flow and the timely updates, which we've touched upon, and content freshness. Managing the data flow and meeting deadlines. Each quarter, each firm has to upload an astronomical amount of data points. From Pinebridge right now, it's about 70,000 data points per quarter. And that's just about 50 products across 15 databases. So getting that data from point A to B in the databases and meeting all of those various deadlines, taking that data from various formats is a big challenge. You need manpower You need strong, detailed analytical people. You need technology. You need processes. You know, if you miss these deadlines, you're missing out on searches, industry reports, and you actually don't even know what you're missing out on. There's a lot of blind searches going on and data collection at any given point during a quarter. So you have to have a good team and processes in place. And then in terms of content freshness, that to me is one of the biggest challenges. You can automate data and get the data into the databases. The content, is becoming more and more challenging as they're asking more live and quarterly questions that you need to respond to, such as commentary. That is something that needs to be updated across all of the databases every quarter. So again, it requires manpower as well as technology. You know, you need really good people and processes in place for both of those. I would say those were my two top challenges.
Okay, understood. Thank you, Dawn. So Beth, perhaps I can turn to you, and you're unique to Dawn in that your organization structure is a lot more complex, given that you have a structure with 13 affiliates. So given that backdrop, can you talk about some of the challenges that you're facing in managing this process?
Yeah, absolutely, Pedro. I love a good challenge, and there's a lot of them, but I'll highlight kind of our top three, if you will. The first one is really around data collection and coordination. I know all managers in the industry kind of struggle with this anyway, but we cover all asset classes. We have fixed income, equity, asset allocation, and both public and private real estate. So data comes in so many different formats from so many different systems there that we really need to work on that coordination. Ensuring we know who or where to go and what to get requires high levels of communication, organization, and partnership with my teams. The second biggest challenge, I would say, is setting policies that apply across all my investment teams and kind of setting expectations with them. We don't have the luxury of one size fits all, right? We're not a growth equity shop, and so we can't kind of sit within that bucket. For example, strategy AUM. I know everybody on this call can say strategy AUM can look different every day of the week, right? Or every hour of every day. You can slice, dice data so many different ways, it's not even funny. So trying to find a repeatable process that is consistent across that many boutiques so that we can get those data points and get them updated in a timely manner is really a struggle. And so that's one thing that luckily I have a great team and we're working through that and good business partners, but it is definitely something that's a heavy lift. The third challenge I would say is really prioritizing the work. We cannot possibly update every field and all 1,000 database entries that we oversee. So we have to work with our sales teams and the marketing groups that run priority product lists for us and really use that along with the analytics to see who's searching on what, kind of what's hot, and we prioritize that way. So I'm kind of in the business of making as many people happy as possible, but certainly not making everybody happy.
Understood. So Beth, I've heard you're covering multiple asset classes in different formats. You're setting policies. You're the prioritization of work. So handling that data and coordination.
I'm a huge fan of communication and partnership, right? We work with so many different business areas, and we work with them to really make sure they understand the importance of how these databases drive our business. And so getting them to understand that then also helps them understand why it's important to make sure we have quality data and make sure we have that data on time. It's in everybody's best interest. I'm much like Dawn, right? We're huge into processes. It's in everybody's best interest to create a data collection process that's efficient and repeatable. Luckily, we all have that mindset. So the communication and partnership with those teams, they're kind of rowing in the same direction as we are, if you will. They build a lot of reports out of systems and tools that we use. So we look to do a lot of automation even internally before we send that data to Acuity. Organization is another key element. I'm going to give a shout out to my team here. They're the most organized folks I know. My team is essentially the gatekeeper for this data. While we don't create it, we do pull it all together and organize it in a way that we can share it with Acuity for database population, and then also with the rest of my product team to make sure that data is consistent across RFPs, DDQs, and the consultant databases. Right, having data consistent across multiple things, everybody's checking on you, that's a big deal to make sure it's the same everywhere. So I have a lot of data running through two people. Quite frankly, I'm very happy to have it run through two people. I feel like the more hands you put in the cookie jar there, the more it can deteriorate a process. So communication, partnership, organization, those are my big things for getting that all completed.
Understood. Thank you, Beth. So perhaps I can turn to Vimal. Vimal, before we turn to you, so we've heard about the challenges surrounding data, timely updates, content freshness, data in multiple formats, etc. And I think when we look at our polling questions, so we asked a number of folks on the call to respond to that polling question. So let's just pull up the results here. So Vimal, 73% of folks have said data sourcing, including multiple data formats, huge challenge. Then converting data into required templates. I think every meeting that we have certainly becomes a huge talking point. Then narratives, review and updates, as well as meeting database deadlines. So with that, Vimal, you've transitioned close to 35 clients to Acuity's managed solution. And certainly within the last 12 months, you've transitioned 20. So what are some of the challenges that you have heard across not only clients that you've onboarded, but prospective clients that we speak to today?
Sure, Pedro. I feel, first of all, Beth and Dawn nicely outlined some of challenges like data coordination, timely update, and content freshness. In fact, our audience has also vetted some of these challenges through polling response. In my view, every firm is different in terms of their org structure, products, and focus areas. However, I believe some of the challenges are quite common across the asset managers and have significant impact on overall process. I would like to outline 4 key challenges. That is data, quality control, partial consultant database coverage, and issue resolution, or you can say communication. Data is a quite critical element in the entire workflow. My experience is that firms often struggle with data sourcing. They are required to source data from multiple teams within the organization, internal data warehouse, third-party data providers, etc. Data also comes in multiple formats like Excel, Word, PDF, CSV, etc. And there are frequent changes in data format or layout, which needs to be addressed. And then if you are required to convert data to a vendor-specific format, add another layer of work. Hence, it is quite tedious and time-consuming process, which translate to higher turnaround time and additional resources you need to put in. In terms of quality control, I feel this is another critical aspect, as incorrect data can lead to product screening failures. Also, as a firm, put you in a difficult situation. Often there are various discrepancies in data generated, which requires thorough review and fixes. Sometimes data might be missing or unavailable, which can impact your ability to supply timely data to consultants. Frequent staff turnover and lack of process documentation, in fact, may lead to inconsistent process and creates gaps for historical data. So all such issues impact data quality, product visibility, and require multiple rework. This means you may have to spend additional time and the entire process will slow down. Partial database coverage is another challenge for many firms. Off-the-shelf solution may not provide full coverage. Hence, firms may have to manually populate 20 to 30% of databases in-house. Also, such a solution does not provide support for offline data requests coming from a consultant in form of questionnaires. In fact, as Don mentioned, narrative updates could be manual and then challenging if managed in-house. This means, as a firm, you don't get an end-to-end, process support. Hence, you need to deploy extra resources and cost to manage the manual part of the process. In past, in fact, some of our clients, prospects mentioned about delays in issue resolution and lack of responsiveness they faced while using off-the-shelf solution. If you dealing with a customer support center, you may have to explain your issues multiple times, and you don't get a dedicated person or team to support you. In fact, in such cases, the ownership is more on you rather the vendor. Hence, such issues lead to process delays, often growing frustrations. So I would say that the aforementioned issues may have a significant impact on your consultant database process. Hence, as a firm, you require a solution which provides end-to-end support, quickly adapt to changes without much risk and additional cost involved. So that's my take, Pedro.
Thank you, Vimal. Very, very comprehensive. I think I like how you've bucketed this in terms of data, the QC process, the coverage of databases, as well as issue resolution. Combine what you've said as well as Beth and Dawn. It's probably not exhaustive, but it certainly is extensive in terms of challenges that asset managers are facing, which is really a nice segue into, well, what are some of the solutions that exist today to solve those challenges? So this will now bring into focus our second polling question. And again, we'll ask everyone to respond. This, however, is a single response selection. It can really only be one, at least we hope. What is your current solution for managing the investment consultant database process? Again, we will leave this up for 60 seconds, but please respond. We will weave this in to our conversation in a few minutes. Beth, while folks are responding, perhaps this one I can turn over to you. So we know asset managers often use an off-the-shelf tool to manage that consultant process, a database process. Do you think that is the best approach to the CDB process? Earlier Dawn mentioned maybe people, process, technology, which is obviously the solution that Acuity certainly brings to market. So it will be great to get your thoughts there. And you've been with us for 6 months, so you're new in the Acuity journey, so to speak. But you've had experience with other providers and other solutions as such. So can you speak about your view on your earlier process and your transition now to Acuity?
Sorry. Yep. Sorry about that. You can all imagine I've got a kid in the background. So
of course, COVID-19 has changed everything. So we appreciate
exactly. So I wasn't saying no to you guys. That's a great question, Pedro. To answer your first question on best approach, unfortunately, I think in gray. So the best way to approach the CDP process really depends. Ask yourself, how big is your firm? How many strategies across how many databases do you have? How strong is your data infrastructure? And really, what's your budget? For my team and organization, I believe the best approach is a managed solution. We push over 1 million data points each quarter across multiple products, so could not possibly do this without the help of Acuity in their managed solution. As you guys recall, one size does not fit all within our firm, so we have a lot of data and a lot of different formats. As Pedro noted, I'm a new client to Acuity. We started our transition in late 2019, and went live in March of this year. Well done, Vimal, during the pandemic, by the way. Our prior vendor used technology solutions for data population, but we were required to provide the data in the same format and for all of our products, which we simply could not do. My team was left to either manually manipulate the data into that agreed upon format or update a lot of data manually. This took a lot of time and created risk for us, and I'm lucky to have a team of two who love what they do, but any turnover really could have created a world of hurt if the data had been updated incorrectly or differently from prior time periods. Moving to Acuity has helped us immensely. They've been able to take on all of our different data formats and create repeatable processes and business rules to ensure quality on a consistent basis. They also perform back-end quality checks, which is something our other vendor didn't do. Not to mention going live during the pandemic, they did that. I've absolutely had great experience with Vimal and team at Acuity. The implementation period was great. They were extremely organized, came to us with a plan, and the plan was really stuck to. It was extremely organized. We had great communication. They understood all of our processes and how much time it would take to work through all of those files. We also had weekly calls with them and started doing screen sharing, which really helped kind of work through those issues. So I would say the implementation was as smooth as it could have been. It was great.
Thank you, Beth. It sounds good, but I'm sure that there's always concerns, apprehensions, etc. before you take a leap of faith, especially if you have another solution. So Dawn, perhaps I can turn over to you because you were also using an off-the-shelf tool before you decided to partner with us. So what were some of your apprehensions, if we bring apprehensions into focus now, some of your apprehensions or concerns yourself or your management team in making that decision to partner with us?
Yeah, thanks, Pedro. I should preface that there were so many pros, first off, with switching, and Beth highlighted them. I mean, for me, was the various formats in which Acuity can take in data. As you can imagine, the time that takes off of us, and it relieves, makes capacity for our teams. I would say there were really two apprehensions, concerns going into it. One was transition, and the location of the support team. The transition for us was specific to the timing. We were ending our contract with our current vendor, and it was, I think, 2 months, within 2 months, and we had to make that switch. We couldn't have a lapse in having data uploaded to databases. So that meant that Acuity had to do it in a condensed time frame from what they were originally, used to with onboarding clients. I did have absolute faith that it was possible. They had a very good plan in place, which was very transparent, detailed, but you always know there's going to be some hiccups. So, the fact that they had this technology that automates the data was really helpful, but a lot of manual stuff going on with a team of individuals dedicated to Pinebridge. From the mapping to just the coordination and understanding, what products align, to what data. They did just a fabulous job. It was really quite easy for me and my team, just going from, kind of managing an external team, and then having someone kind of manage us. And they were really fabulous in the whole transition. And I can say that we didn't have any delays. The next quarter, we had all the data in there as expected. We had expected some monthly delays, that interim month, but even it was a day or two. So really nothing noticeable. And you know what, along the way, Acuity acknowledged that it would be challenging, and they even added additional resources to the transition team, which was really helpful. And then in terms of location, I was concerned about having a team located in India, I'm sitting in New York with my data analyst, managing the relationship. We're 9.5 hours, you guys are 9.5 hours ahead of us. That was a big concern, but I can tell you we've never once questioned it. Acuity adjusts their time, their day, to overlap with the US. And then, to be honest, you know, I don't come in the morning and have any data hiccups, and there's nothing so urgent that it cannot be taken care of. And I've just never had an issue. Now, while those were my initial concerns, you know, overall, what the managed solution solved for us is just unimaginable. I mean, what we handled in-house, even when we had an off-the-shelf tool, was a lot. And then prior to that, we managed it all in-house with a database team. So, you know, for Pinebridge, the managed solution, hands down, was the way to go.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Beth. Vimal, positive feedback coming from 2 clients. Well done to you and your team. I'll take a look now at the polling results that we asked folks to respond to at the beginning. So let's see here. So we do have a few folks that have joined that are using, in fact, you know, third-party solution, combining people, process, and technology. So well done to those. But we certainly have a large number that are saying that they're only using a third-party off-the-shelf tool or an in-house manual process. So we all know that, you know, if there's a third-party off-the-shelf tool, clearly gaps still exist, whether it's you know, Dawn structure, or maybe a more complex boutique affiliate structure, as Beth. So Vimal, can you speak briefly and describe, you know, our managed service solution and the benefits that we strive to deliver as an organization?
Right, right, Pedro. So first of all, I agree with Beth and Dawn on various challenges using off-the-shelf solution. In fact, we have also heard similar experience from many other clients. So this is a nice, you know, confirmation about the challenges we just spoke here. We feel off-the-shelf solution is not sufficient to manage end-to-end process. Often, you know, when use off-the-shelf tool, you have to deploy internal resources, then who manage the entire process and make the work tool work. So that's a problem, because you really have to deploy additional hands in process that blow up your cost. I have seen that this has not given a desired result to many organizations, simply because when you're dealing with the technology owned by a third party with limited control on your side, I mean, you have to work, you have to take responsibility for majority of work, and then there is a risk of process failures. So to be very frank, it's very difficult to have a perfect marriage in this model. Considering all these experiences, we have designed an end-to-end consultant database update solution, which is a managed service model, combining our consultant database experts and proprietary tool edge. We bring a right mix of people, process, technology, and best practices together for a long-term sustainable solution. Our consultant database experts manage the end-to-end process for our clients. We have implemented this solution to over 35 plus clients, where we maintain 15,000 plus profiles every quarter. The managed solution has been quite effective and helped our clients save significant time to focus on key value added tasks. And in fact, this is same what we are hearing from Dawn and Beth too. In our solution, we cover 100% consultants, whether they are online database like eVestment, Mercer, Wilshire, or offline data submission requests like Eon Hewitt, Asset Consulting Group, etc. When we implement this solution, we focus on last mile customization and tailor the entire process to address client specific requirements, rather one size fits all. We have designed best practices to ensure seamless process transition and minimal responsibility from the client during transition. In fact, as Beth mentioned, I mean, uh, we did complete implementation for Beth when COVID just started, but in otherwise as well. I mean, we have done multiple implementation during COVID, working from home without any hiccups. In our solution, we take full responsibility of data management, like data sourcing from multiple places. We accept data in any format which is internally available with our clients, which helps to save significant time of our clients. We also perform input data validation to avoid data discrepancies. We cover quantitative and qualitative updates, perform 100% quality checks through multi-layer quality check process. We work with our clients on historical data audit and restatements. In fact, help clients with new product or new database onboarding process. We also support clients on various ad hoc tasks. So you can imagine that pretty much everything which is required to maintain consultant database process, we literally help our client so that they save important bandwidth there. And using the solution, our clients have gained 80% of bandwidth to focus on core activities which they were previously spending managing the process task in-house. So ultimately our aim is to enable our clients optimize their ROI and help make every dollar count. And this is in fact the title for today's webinar. So essentially, we definitely want our client to spend money and have a better returns from that money. Now, moving to next section, Pedro, about some of the benefits of a managed solution. I would say there are several, but most importantly, I would say it provides an end-to-end process support with flexibility and option to scale at any time. Helps reduce total ownership cost. Our experience has been perhaps 30 to 50%. Improves turnaround time by 20 to 30%, because here we are eliminating a lot of manual intervention. So when you have a right process which flows seamless and no breaks, I mean, it's no brainer that we are going to add that extra time in our when we are delivering this to our clients, right? In fact, robust quality assurance process ensures more than 98% of data quality updates. Our observation with existing clients have been that managed solution helped significantly, improve the quality. We have also seen that few cases, the previous quality rate were around 87%, but then improved to 98 to 100% within 2 to 3 quarters post we implemented this process. As a result, we have also seen improvement in project visibility, because if you maintain your data timely and complete manner, of course your products are more visible, and then you enhance your chances of winning those mandates. And at last, I would say that if you partner with a service provider like Acuity, with a diverse service offering across the marketing operations, you have access to one-stop shop for your growing marketing operations need. So that's what I feel, Pedro, in terms of how managed solution is compared with off-the-shelf solution.
Thank you, Vimal. Very comprehensive, very detailed, and a very solid service we have, and clearly why we have folks like Beth and Dawn. Perhaps we can move to the Q&A. Before we do that, as I mentioned, please, we have a few questions. I can see them, and so I'll just remind everyone to ask their questions in the Q&A box. But over the last 45 minutes, we have discussed and touched on the impact of COVID on the industry, the impact on the consultant databases. I think we all underscore the importance of managing this process efficiently and effectively. We talked about the challenges that clearly exist, whether it's data, being asked to provide data in multiple formats, having to deal with data across multiple asset classes, timely updates, the need for more data. And we touch on solutions. There are off-the-shelf solutions. Some folks on this call, that's what they're leveraging. There's folks that might decide, let's not have a tool, let's not have a managed solution, let's do everything in-house manually. Certainly, we based on what Vimal has just described, and based on the positive feedback from Beth and Dawn, that there's certainly significant amount of benefits to having that managed service and just taking away a lot of the pain across the data QC issue resolution process. So with that, I will start to get into some of the questions that we have here. I did have one prospect, so I will take the spotlight first. I had one prospect who was unable to attend this morning, but she did send me a question ahead of time, and I would really love to hear best thoughts on this one. So I'll kickstart this one. So once the CDB, as we call it, solution is implemented, clients are supposed to have additional capacity of internal resources. If so, how have you restructured or deployed your internal team's bandwidth on other activities? And what advantages have you seen in the entire value chain?
Yeah, great question. As a leader, it's my job to look at my team holistically, right, in our position within the firm. This not only includes my team members, but vendor resources as well. So given the structure of my firm, there's still a few small pockets of people that are completing their own RFPs, DEQs, and databases. But as I free up resources on my team, I work with those other areas to take on more on the work from them. That way they can focus on the other activities. With Acuity and my consultant database team, I already knew that my RFP team needed support, and I wasn't able to add to staff at the time. I don't always recommend this, but I did spend my bonus before I got it, banking on the hopes that Acuity would free up some of my staff's time. Of course, as a leader, I was always willing to pivot should I had to, but I'm very happy that it worked out as planned. Just in the first 2 quarters, the work with the Acuity team has freed up at least half the capacity of a full-time person on my team, if not more. I've actually been able to redeploy them into a newly designed data specialist role within my team. The 2 folks that I have really enjoy data, I'm very lucky, and understand how it's used within databases, RFPs, and DDQs. So with the free up in their capacity, they're now completing all AUM and staff data tables for my RFP and DDQ teams, in addition to managing the data within consultant databases. And by doing this, just in the first quarter, we've been able to identify potential inconsistency in prior data pulls and areas where we can create efficiencies with other departments, such as finance and our platform teams. And we're also starting to better outline policies, which we can make consistent across our boutiques. So this has been very beneficial for us.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Beth. As I'm looking at the questions here, so Dawn, I guess this one is for you. So how are firms managing the investment team information, and who's responsible for managing that data?
Well, at Pinebridge, we have Acuity managing the data into databases and coordinating with our internal database analyst. All investment data, such as the personnel, performance, characteristics, AUM, is generated internally at within the various teams at Pinebridge. We have this file folder set up that's called an FTP that these various individuals drop files in and it automatically gets sent to Acuity on a scheduled basis. So what goes in that folder is really all the regular generated reports that Pinebridge will do on a monthly or quarterly basis. So all different formats. As we've mentioned, Acuity can take in those formats pending that they have already been mapped, right? So we really require very little from our performance teams and our other partners across the firm, like nothing further than dropping a file in a folder. So we're not asking them to do any additional work, nor is it creating any additional work on our end. So this relationship is managed primarily by Acuity, with monitoring and coordination with our internal analyst. What's really helpful, though, how do we monitor all of this? Because there's so much going on. Acuity has this fabulous dashboard that we get on a monthly and quarterly basis. And it's summarized really nicely, and then you can get additional details on every specific vehicle and data point that is in the database, and when it was added, has it been reviewed internally by Acuity? So has it gone through that quality check, if you will? So it's really easy to stay on track of what is in and what is not in. And if there's not anything in, it's highlighted for us to figure out why we haven't gotten Acuity the data, or have conversations with our internal teams and Acuity to solve for it.
Great, thank you for that response, Dawn. I'm seeing some very good questions. I know we have 9 minutes, so I will try to get some of these questions very quickly in. I guess either Dawn or Beth, question is, do you use the data that Acuity formats to feed data aspects in the RFPs and DDQs? Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. The data that we send to Acuity, we don't necessarily get a spit back, if you will, of the data formats from Acuity. We do still use our own internal files to complete RFPs and DDQs. So in that aspect, I would say no, but you see where we've got the same data source, if you will, that Acuity is using and our RFP and DDQ teams are.
Okay, great. Another question, and for either one of you to answer. What was your internal approval process like to gain approval to engage with a third party or switch vendors? Was bringing in Acuity your idea, or did it come from your team or higher up in your organization? Interesting question.
I'm happy to take that one.
Sure.
It comes down to proving improved processes. How can we get to where we want to be, and budget, right? How can we save money? How can we deploy our resources for other purposes? And that requires data and metrics. So management loves data, metrics, and if you can show them that your team is being overworked with XYZ number of data RFPs, including management data, you can make a strong case, as long as you can show the benefits, and then work towards those benefits. It was my idea, along with a teammate, to bring it forward to make the switch from the off-the-shelf solution to a managed solution. And I can tell you, management loves that. As long as you're not asking them for more money, you're shifting resources, and you're being crafty in doing that. Beth, I don't know if you had a similar experience.
No, I completely agree. I would say within principle, as leaders of a department, we're definitely empowered to make these decisions. There clearly needs to be a business case and a need for it. So like Dawn was saying, the metrics are huge. Even if you can show, a net neutral or reduce in spend, either from, additional staff, like in my case, I didn't immediately gain any efficiencies, but going forward, I will reduce the amount of staff I need because of it. And so if you're able to prove those points out, I think that's your best bet moving forward with a vendor, any type of vendor.
So I think, Beth, this one has been pointed towards you, perhaps because you recently signed up. The question is, what were your key drivers to select Acuity, and how has been, I guess, what has been the feedback thus far?
Yeah. I'd say my three key drivers were really around the data formats. That was the hugest one. Quality checks and assurances, and really a more holistic solution. By and large, it's my job to look and see where we can create efficiencies and increase quality in order to free up my team's time to focus on those items that can never be automated. Again, given how complex my organization is, these were the key things I really needed to focus on. I've been extremely impressed with Acuity and how they've partnered with us and so quickly proved that they could provide the solution that we needed. Another sort of thing that wasn't necessarily a driver, but I'm seeing as an added benefit, is that they can be a strong business partner across my organization. Like our clients, I'm looking for a business partner as well, somebody who can understand my business, provide solutions, and add value. Acuity could provide exactly what I needed for consultant databases, but I can look more long-term and partner with them on DDQ and RFPs as my volumes continue to rise. So knowing that I was looking for this kind of a partnership, I of course had some apprehensions. I consider myself a bit cautiously optimistic, if you will. So I had to make sure this was the right move. In changing vendors to Acuity, I did have to terminate my prior vendor while also making sure we didn't negatively impact the other contracts my firm had with them. This required delicate relationship discussions to ensure no damage was done. And Acuity understood my position and was very careful with their role in the transition as well. Additionally, I would say the references, right? When you get any new vendor, you should ask them for references. By and large, these references should be positive, right? But in this case, it was almost too good to be true. And so my gut told me, keep digging, right? I went out to my industry peers. I think some of you are on the call today. And the folks that I know that have been using Acuity had the same glowing feedback, quite frankly. And they've proven themselves. Acuity has absolutely proven themselves. My team is absolutely loves to work with them. The communication is amazing. And this is going to be a great partnership. So I think it's been highly beneficial for our firm thus far.
Thank you, Beth. This question was for Dawn. Would you mind citing who exactly your transition to Acuity was made from?
So I would prefer not to answer that, but happy to talk and be a reference for Acuity and talk more about that transition, because it was, like Beth, we had to maintain relationships. We have a good relationship with our previous vendor. This was a switch in solutions. This wasn't we had a poor experience. This was, we needed to do something more to free up resources internally. And it was just a better approach and solution for Pinebridge.
Excellent, Dawn. Thank you for that. Vimal, perhaps this one is for you. And I know we have a few minutes left. So what challenges do you typically face during new client implementation? And how is the timeline looking since not the entire products may be transitioned within 1 quarter?
Sure, Pedro. I mean, I would say that it's really important when you are doing a new transition. It's really important that you have a clear set of plan, and then you have a clear set of communication, regular check-ins to ensure that the whole project plan is working fine. And then in between, of course, there is a discussion from both the ends in terms of, how we really want to set up the process, what are the fine nuances. There might be a very specific business requirement from each client, etc. So I would say as long as you keep everything, aligned, I really don't see that the major challenge which we have ever faced. Of course, a few cases, situation like Dawn mentioned, when we were talking to Dawn and then they were nearing their, renewal with the previous vendor. It was almost that we had to cut down our timeline by 40%. But then also, I think we took a conscious decision to deploy additional resources, have that quick moving plan. And in fact, sometime even from a client side, the expectation should be very clear that what time we need required information, etc. So I would say that general timeline looks, 8 to 12 weeks for a new setup, which is always safe timeline. But then we are very flexible at times when we really understand that our clients are into specific situations like what Don mentioned.
Thank you, Vimal. Given we are now at the 11 a.m. mark, unfortunately, that was the last question that we could take. As I mentioned earlier, if there are any unanswered questions, we will certainly have a response to you by the end of this week. We have a survey as well at the end of the webinar. So if you could kindly complete that survey, that would be much appreciated. That way we can improve on future webinars. On behalf of the Acuity team, Dawn, Perry, Beth Mosley, I would like to thank you for taking 1 hour out of your busy schedules to share your valuable experiences, your thoughts, your best practices on how you have dealt with the consultant database process, managing that efficiently and effectively at your end. Vimal, I would also like to thank you as well for sharing your thoughts. Beth and Dawn, I think Dawn mentioned it for one of her questions, her responses. They have kindly agreed to take any additional questions above and beyond what you couldn't ask today. So feel free to reach out. We have their contact information here. With that, we hope everyone that joined found it a useful investment of 1 hour. And that concludes our consultant database webinar this morning. Thank you all.